Story 1. Death is eternal. Death is the opposite of life. Therefore, we were dead before we were born. We were dead for trillions of years before and will be dead for trillions after. What is another 40 to 60 years of life in comparison to trillions? Death is guaranteed, so we might as well see what happens. It is not like it can get worse than this, and if it does, oh well. I will be dead in less than a century anyway. Story 2. Even when I don't feel it, there are many people who care deeply about me. I continue on for them. Story 3. Fear of homelessness is significant. While times are tough, being homeless would make it much worse. So, I get out of bed every morning and go to work. I would do anything to stay at home and live a reclusive life. The situation in the world is becoming increasingly challenging, and I want no part of it. Story 4. As far as I know, I am not clinically depressed, so take this with a grain of salt. However, when I realized I was actively struggling with my mental health, I took a pragmatic approach. I work out 3 to 4 times a week, and I am serious about that. Even if I only walk on a treadmill for an hour, it helps a lot, which is frustrating because I dislike working out. I started an office job and stopped going to the gym for about a year, and that was when my mental health declined significantly. The endorphins make a difference, regardless of what anyone says. We are not meant to sit around for 9 hours a day. I make it a point to go outside twice during my workday because my office does not have windows, and a lack of vitamin D can negatively affect your mood. I keep a journal and engage in a lot of stream of consciousness writing. No matter how cringeworthy, ridiculous, or self-pitying the thought may be, I write it down. It feels better to get it out of my system. I also pick up art projects. I crochet, do color work, and doodle. I have various activities that allow me to zone out, and it feels meditative. I ignore social media content that makes me upset and block pages that spread negative or pessimistic messages. I have done all I can to prevent the world from becoming like this. There is no benefit in becoming overwhelmed every other day because many people struggle to think critically. Story 5. I have come out alive on the other side of worse depressive episodes before, so I know for a fact it gets better. I just wait for it to pass and engage in activities that give my mind and body a fighting chance to recover. Vitamin D, movement, and nutritious food. I also remind myself that just because I think something does not mean it is true. Story 6. It helps to remind myself frequently that my brain is experiencing a neurochemical imbalance, and it does not define who I truly am or who I want to become. I have to fight it with determination, but medication, therapy, and healthy living are effective tools. Story 7. Telling myself every day that I will break the cycle as long as I don't quit, along with reading a good book. Story 8. Religion is the only thing keeping me alive. If I didn't believe in God, I would have died decades ago. Story 9. Over the last few months, I have been focused on building large Lego Technic car sets. In addition, I enjoy cycling up mountains until I feel nauseous. Story 10. Vitamin D3. I have been taking it for almost 2 weeks. It is not much time, but I honestly feel an improvement in my morning mood. Regarding therapy, I have participated in it on and off for the past 6 years, depending on my needs with both traditional therapy and holistic approaches. I have also changed therapists after approximately 2 years each time. Currently, I am working with a therapist specialized in somatic therapy, sunshine, and the gym. Although I have only been consistent for 2 weeks, I have noticed that exercise helps me during ovulation but not in my premenstrual week. I spend time with people, but only those I feel comfortable with. There is no need for significant effort when I am feeling low. My relationship with my partner and his support is important. It is not the first on the list because I tend to be codependent and have a mixed attachment style. I am learning not to cling and to express my needs in a healthy way. Sleep, books, and sometimes just being depressed. I indulge in comfort food for an evening, watch movies, television shows, or do absolutely nothing. Crying, journaling, and painting bring me comfort. Cozy blankets, warm baths, and showers are also helpful. I enjoy hiking during the warm seasons, and I focus on managing my insulin resistance through weightlifting, quitting smoking, and improving my diet. I will come back if I remember anything else. Story 11. I cannot continue until my mother passes away, as she is my only close family. Once that happens, I will leave. Story 12. Medication, therapy, daily gratitude practice, and taking care of my dog. I promise myself and my family that I will reach the natural end of my life. Story 13. My brother is disabled, so I can't leave him alone with my aging mother. Once they both become ill, I will need to find help or support. Story 14. Some days, out of pure spite, I refuse to let my depression rule my life or let those who hurt me win. Most of the time, it is hope for a better tomorrow. I have never let go of that little shred of hope that my life will get better. My parents always told me that death is the easy way out. These days, I have my cats to care for, and I am blessed to have a wonderful partner who helps keep me going. The above is what got me through the dark times when I was alone. Story 15. I don't even know what keeps me going, honestly. I would have to say my loved ones are the only reason I am still alive. Story 16. Medication is essential for me. Some people, like myself, need it. I have a severe form of premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which can lead to frightening suicidal thoughts. I take Wellbutrin, Lamictal, and Strattera. During the luteal phase of my menstrual cycle, I add Lexapro until my period begins. This combination of medications has transformed my life. I feel like a completely different person. Story 17. If I die, nobody will water my plants and feed my fish. I love them too much for them to die. Therefore, I have to wake up and get going every single day. If not for me, then for them. Story 18. I will one day do a lot of exciting world travel if I save a specific percentage of every paycheck for budgeting. Story 19. New experiences can range from trying a new item on the McDonald's menu to crossing something off your bucket list. Story 20. Some days, knowing that taking any action would be inconvenient or upsetting for those I care about is the only reason I try to keep pushing through, even though my mind has me convinced they would all be better off. Story 21. I engage in activities to focus my mind elsewhere. I spend time with people who bring me joy and learn to navigate through challenges, as that is all we can do. Story 22. Hard question. Beloved ones keep me alive, like my nephews. Every time I think I could go deeper into the darkness, I think about them. Story 23. I finally told my divorcing wife how she abused me, and she didn't believe me. She said it was the first time I mentioned anything. I'm sure the shouting and tears during our years of marriage were just for my entertainment. Breakthroughs help. Communication can surprise people. I appreciate surprises. Story 24. Knowing each day is a step closer to the inevitable end, and that is worth getting out of bed for. Story 25. I am waiting patiently and taking care of myself as best as I can until things change. Depression intensifies for me when I spiral and become overwhelmed. When I feel depressed and have negative thoughts, I pause for a few minutes to breathe, meditate, and check in with my feelings in the moment without the accompanying narratives. Often, I find it's just tiredness or even relaxation. If I lean into that and allow it to be, it eventually lifts on its own. Story 26. I get out of the house, even if it is just to walk around town for an hour or two. Staying inside makes me feel like the world is closing in on me. It drives my stress through the roof. Story 27. I am too scared to harm myself, and I am afraid of dying, so I have to go on even if it hurts. I get constant headaches every day, and I am really tired of this dull feeling. It is ridiculous. Story 28. I recently lost my cat, who died tragically at the age of 6. I raised him from a kitten, and the grief I felt was overwhelming. It made me realize that my mother and sisters would experience even greater pain if I were to take my own life. Things that help with coping include distraction through television shows and movies, quitting substance use, taking my prescriptions as directed, openly communicating with my family doctor, and having a strong network of loved ones. Story 29. Having depression since I was about 10, I have learned to sometimes slip into my mind for 20 minutes or so. It may sound strange, but it's like reassessing my thoughts. I replay some good memories or just daydream for a bit. At least it works for me. Story 30. I fear more that my family finds out I am depressed, as I would not be able to handle their judgment and lack of understanding on the topic. This fear is so overwhelming that I force myself to get out of bed every day. Story 31. My depression does not cause sadness. It is more about apathy and a genuine lack of motivation. I will do things when others take the initiative. Story 32. I keep smoking cannabis whenever negative thoughts arise. I spend my time shifting from one distraction to the next, trying to avoid the harsh reality that the world we live in is difficult. When my distractions fail, I sometimes write to express myself. However, I often find that in the process of expressing myself, I encounter a deep sense of depression within me that wishes to escape existence. Story 33. I started with just showing up after a couple of decades. Now I look forward to a morning workout. I am there every day. It's the only thing that makes me feel at peace. Story 34. My dog was a stray before I adopted him. I don't want to put him through that stress again. Story 35. I have depression and obsessive-compulsive disorder. For a while, the thing that kept me going was giving my word to two people who I value more than myself. At this point, I recognize that life can be challenging. I've experienced difficult times, but I wonder if things can improve. I'm unsure if it gets better, but I'm willing to find out. All I need to do is make it to 80. If I reach that age, I plan to try every illegal substance and then let go. Story 36. Spite. Pure and simple. I know my ex-mother-in-law wishes misery and death upon me, so I am going to live a happy, fulfilling life. Story 37. I really enjoy video games. I am quite passionate about them. It's definitely better than being unenthusiastic. I often feel like death is my constant companion, so I play video games to distract myself from that feeling. Story 38. Medications, therapy, and exercise, though it took me a long time to find the right exercise for me. Puppy snuggles, plants, and surprisingly, unloading the dishwasher. It provides an immediate sense of order when everything else feels chaotic. Story 39. I used to be depressed, but now I'm feeling better thanks to having money. I dream of the day I can quit my job and retire. According to my calculations, I can do this anytime and move to a country like Vietnam for the rest of my life, which is a comforting thought. Story 40. Technology moves quickly, and amazing things are happening in my lifetime. I feel depressed, but I am eager to see what humans can create. Story 41. Usually, I think about how my existence will hurt the people who care about me more than it hurts me. Story 42. My children. I will not allow them to grow up without a mother or without an engaged mother. Even on my worst days, I will get out of bed and have fun with them. Additionally, antidepressants help. Story 43. The smell of grass after it rains, my favorite songs, my Jobson days, my car, my cat, Trintellix, and family. I also enjoy going to an empty field and looking at the completely dark sky. You see so much and it's so grounding. Story 44. This is a good question. Remind me to answer when I find the answer. The belief that there is still some purpose for me in life to discover on my journey through this challenging situation. Story 45. Being institutionalized after a failed attempt was much more unbearable than facing life's challenges. I also drink frequently, but I advise against it. Story 46. The answer to this is becoming more difficult to determine. My dad and brother are alive, so I guess that is the answer for now. Story 47. My daughter. As much as I might not want to be here at times, my love for her never stops, and I never want to break her heart or let her down by not being present. Even on my worst day, I am still the best thing in the world to her. She sees what I don't and gives me love. Becoming pregnant triggered a lot for me. I still have long-lasting impacts, but I have learned to manage the hallucinations, and I am in a much better place now. I can identify my triggers more easily, and I am grateful for my support system, which helps me do my best for her. I don't always get it right, but I try. Story 48. I don't want my friends and family to wonder what they could have done to prevent it. I continue to suffer so they won't have to. Story 49. My wife and daughter are my motivation. My inner need to work and support them keeps me grounded. It is the only thing I feel proud of. The only escape for me would be some kind of premature heroic end, and I could be okay with that. Story 50. Fujimoto is still alive, creating masterpiece after masterpiece. He can't die before the Chainsaw Man Part 2 is finished. He can't die before Fujimoto retires. Story 51. As someone with polycystic ovary syndrome who is trying to conceive, the mental toll can be overwhelming. Every cycle feels like a roller coaster of hope and heartbreak, and it is exhausting. What helps me keep going is reminding myself that my worth is not tied to my fertility. I try to focus on small wins, whether it is seeing progress in my hormone levels, taking a break when needed, or treating myself with the same kindness I would give a friend in my situation. Therapy, journaling, and leaning on my partner and online trying to conceive communities have also been lifesavers. Some days are harder than others, but I hold on to the hope that one day, this struggle will be part of my story, not the whole thing. Story 52. When I was depressed, dreaming and fantasy stories helped me a lot. I just drifted into a whole other world and stayed there. That is why I do not judge people in different fandoms. Sometimes, fantasy helps. Story 53. I suffered for more than a decade and then attended a psychological clinic for 6 weeks. Since then, I have been taking daily antidepressants and seeing a psychologist once a month. I feel like a new person. Story 54. I have depression, but I have never been suicidal. If you are suicidal, you need extra intervention and should reach out for help because it is too big to cope with alone. I have had 2 close family members who have been suicidal, one of whom made multiple attempts. With my depression, there have been days and long periods when nothing kept me going, and I could not even get out of bed. Knowing in the back of my mind that my depression is cyclical and that things will get better makes it tolerable when I am at my worst. My family, especially my children, make me want to get better. I believe sometimes depression is just chemical or hormonal and is not a matter of motivation. Medication has helped, and so has managing my stress levels. My dog and knowing he depends on me to walk him, feed him, and care for him has helped establish a routine. Getting outside, even for a short walk, makes a big difference. Getting sunlight early in the morning, if possible, also helps. Little things like buying tickets to a concert give me something to look forward to. Many small steps can add up and make a difference. Instead of thinking about how overwhelming it all is, I focus on one small achievement each day, like, I washed the dishes. There have been times when nothing helped, so I just slept or watched television and waited for it to pass. That is okay too. Story 55. Antidepressants and exercise. Lately, I have not been doing much. Honestly, I am finding it hard to be motivated. However, life is necessary, so you might as well try. Story 56. My daughter is now 7 months old and embodies the love I have always given to her. She is a very happy baby, and I feel grateful for the bond we share. I struggled with postpartum depression, which exacerbated my existing mental health issues, including major depression, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, borderline personality disorder, and obsessive-compulsive disorder. I still experience suicidal thoughts at times, and it's been particularly challenging over the last 6 days. Despite these struggles, my daughter is my source of value in this life. In my darkest moments, I may feel like I want to end my life, but I would never harm my daughter's mother. Story 57. Surrendering to spirituality through activities such as music, exercise, journaling, writing poetry, reading, planning, and making lists for everything. Story 58. Whenever I feel overwhelmed and think that not existing would be easier, I remind myself of this. Taking a nap is like death, but without the commitment. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem and will only hurt others. I also rely on medication, more medication, vitamin D, my pets, my husband, and the good friends I keep in my life. Story 59. I keep going despite my dad, who thinks I am weak and can't cope with life because I had problems with adolescent suicidality. I don't want to prove him right, so I keep trying to learn new ways to manage. Story 60. Someone very dear to my heart needs me. I don't know why. I'm not deserving of love, and it wouldn't matter if I were gone. But I am a woman of my word, for whatever that is worth. Story 61. Understanding that there is someone out there right now who would trade their life with mine in a second. People receive bad news daily, and today I have not. I am healthy, and my immediate family is here. I am grateful. Story 62. Death is forever. I have struggled greatly. In the end, I hope to find people who can fill my void of loneliness. It feels impossible at the moment, as I am in a difficult financial situation and unable to pursue hobbies that could help me meet others. However, I hold on to a small glimmer of hope that I might eventually find some friends. It can be disheartening when you feel you have nothing to offer. Story 63. I find beauty in the absurdity of the world, which brings laughter and occasional bursts of creative energy. I have a wife and kids, and I used to have a dog. I believe the world can improve, and since many people who achieve great things are deeply flawed, it is possible for me to make a difference. This year, I plan to give another dog a home. Story 64. As difficult as depression is, it would be much worse if my family were homeless, and far worse for them if they were without a father. I get up and go to work every day because it is better than the alternatives. Story 65. My parents, sister, and other close relatives are still alive. I couldn't do that to them. All bets are off when they pass. Story 66. Knowing what makes it worse is important. If I don't eat well, socialize, and exercise, it creeps in. I base my routine around doing those things. Story 67. My cat loves me and would never understand why I didn't come home. He relies on me for everything, and I need him. Story 68. My pets are everything to me, and they would be devastated if I passed away. I do not know what I would do without them. Story 69. First, it was my little sisters who looked up to me. Then it was my children until they became independent. Now, I am just waiting for my parents to pass away. Story 70. My fiancé went out to take the trash but didn't bring his phone and didn't come back for several hours. I was filled with fear that something had happened to him. I reflected on how awful I felt during that time and realized that if I took my own life, I would cause him the same pain, which I could never do to him. Story 71. The thought is that it isn't about me. What makes life worth living is how well we can learn to love others. It is such a difficult skill. I also think that, in a strange way, nothing is that serious, even though all of it is. I think about people who laugh in the midst of wars, those who write beautiful songs in times of despair, and those who dance amidst so much death. We can do our best to save each other from death, but what a great gift it is to save each other from despair. Story 72. Sometimes my dog, who is a super cute and loving companion, is often the motivation for me to get out of bed. Story 73. Routines helped me with my depression. Every day, I made an effort to do chores or engage in hobbies. Talking to my friends was helpful as well. They encouraged me to go outside and forced me to live a little. Therapy also contributed to my progress. Story 74. Nature has a mental healing factor for me. I live near the city and do not escape it as much as I would like. But when I do, it feels like a complete reset. Story 75. My children are my sole reason for living. I never want them to suffer as I have, and it would destroy their lives if I were gone. I have researched my method and am semi-planning, but I cannot act on it, not for a long time. Story 76. Sure, I'll share. Having social support networks, getting the right amount of sleep, and keeping a routine are important. It's essential to avoid ruminating and to eat healthily. I reward or treat myself when I have low energy to motivate myself to take action. Sometimes I indulge a little. I have also learned techniques to stop cycling through thoughts that keep me in a depressed state. Story 77. I'm grateful for this miracle. Yes, the situation is overwhelming, but survival has always been the goal. I'm an eternal optimist and believe things will change. You just have to crawl through the difficult times first. Story 78. I have failed every suicide attempt so far, so I feel like I do not have a choice but to keep going. Story 79. I am not depressed. The reason I live is because of my family and my goal of being a good person. Story 80. As much self-hatred as I have, I still have other people who care about me, and I don't want to make them sad. Story 81. My daughter is my greatest achievement. She deserves to have a great mom, and I try every day to give her that. Story 82. My children, I don't want them to dwell on the reasons behind my actions or on the questions that arise after a suicide. I don't want them to feel regret about not having talked to me more, spending time with me, or wondering why I was alone in the garage. If I didn't have children, I wouldn't be here. Story 83. I'd say video games. Recently, I have been maintaining almost no contact with friends and family. Video games help me not to think about my problems. I am currently playing God of War 2018, and it's a nice experience. Story 84. It's important to know that depression is very treatable, temporary, and joy will return. I have seen this very closely. Discuss with a doctor, stay involved with friends and family, and know that things will improve. Give your recovery time. Story 85. I'm going to jump in on the idea that death is the biggest preventer, but I'm going to elaborate. I have a form of treatment-resistant depression, and I've been in therapy for over 20 years. For 17 years, I was in a relationship, and the most important reason preventing my wish to die was to not make my partner sad. When my marriage ended, I was extremely suicidal, but what prevented me at that point was making my family sad. I went on ketamine treatment for 2 years, which helped keep me somewhat stable. I ended up being medically retired from my career due to my mental health. At that point, I decided I was going to travel. However, my plan was to travel until I ran out of money, and when the money ran out, I intended to end it all. What was unexpected was that I met someone I fell in love with while traveling. That relationship didn't last long, but it sparked a deep connection with another human that gave me hope. A few months later, after facing some major life challenges, I started focusing on myself. When I finally began to feel a sense of relief from my depression, though I still wasn't functioning like normal people, I found myself in another relationship with someone I had met briefly. We talked long distance for a long time, and this led to me being the happiest I had been in years. We finally reconnected in person and dated for a while, and that relationship ended about a month ago. I'm still traveling and I'm almost out of money, but the thing is, I no longer want to die. What I managed to prove to myself while exhausting my life savings is that life presents wonderful moments at random times, and there are so many amazing experiences I've had that I wouldn't have experienced if I had ended my life. I'm still very depressed and honestly feeling the worst I have in a long time because of the end of my last relationship, which had instilled hope. But the thing is, I don't feel like giving up this time. I don't know what I'm going to do financially, and I don't know how to get my mind right to be a functioning member of society in the same way again. However, I realize that my values do not coincide with the society I belong to back home. I recognize that there are great things in life that just don't exist where I'm from, but that doesn't mean they're not out there. So now my job going forward is to figure out how to make things work because good things tend to find me when I allow them to, and the biggest way to prevent that is for me to remove myself from the equation. So I'm not going to quit anymore. I'm not going to resign myself to death, of which I don't believe there is an afterlife. I won't allow the rules of the world I was born into to control my life and keep me down. I'm going to keep going out there and looking to pave my own way, as I have for the last few years, and I'm sure more good things will find me. I have been extremely risk-averse, which has led to both phenomenal payoffs and mistakes. I only lived that way because I didn't care what happened. That has shown me to maybe say yes to a little more and be less worried about everything. Realistically, my worst-case scenario is a part of my brain's best-case scenario, so what do I have to lose by just going out there and trying to find something that will make me want to wake up every day? Story 86. There are simple, easy things I enjoy, and I focus on being grateful. The knowledge that everyone will die allows me to try to make a meaningful life. I will die like everyone else. Did I do some good today without looking for any payoff? Is the good itself a reason to live? Story 87. Occasional glimmers of hope pierce through like sunlight on an overcast winter's day. Usually, however, I simply exist. Story 88. My love for others has been shaped by the experiences of losing friends and relatives too young. Witnessing the impact of these losses on families and friends keeps me grounded. Even during moments when I think they'd be better off without me, I remind myself that they absolutely would not be. I know how much they mean to me, and I love them deeply, even when I feel at my lowest. Story 89. Sometimes I feel better. I try to focus on those moments and trust that they will continue to come. Story 90. I believe that after everything I've been through, the law of averages should provide me with something eventually. And if it doesn't, I will still be glad I fought. Story 91. The intensity and fear of having to show up every day. I don't want to get out of bed, but I have to so I can have a bed. Story 92. My nieces lost their father and their grandfather last year, and they are both under 8. I couldn't bear being another deceased family member to add to their trauma. Story 93. Existing is required. My presence might not be desired, but existing is. So keep the physical body alive. Story 94. Duloxetine and venlafaxine. If someone offered to shoot me or give me a cyanide pill, I would choose the latter, to be honest. Story 95. 1. Microdosing magic mushrooms. Exercise helps, especially when using heavy weights. Getting enough sleep without oversleeping. Avoiding alcohol and limiting sugar intake. Practicing emotional control. The constant love from my dog. What didn't work for me? 1. Therapy. Cannabidiol or tetrahydrocannabinol. Did I mention therapy? 3 years following these strategies, and life has never felt better for me. Story 96. I might as well see what happens. I wasn't interested. I didn't care, but between end it or don't, and maybe it'll wear off eventually, I chose the latter. Story 97. I have started using an application called Finch, and it has really helped me get motivated and out of my slump. It is mainly a fun task management app. Daily tasks, like getting out of bed, getting dressed, and brushing my teeth, can be set up. You can also create other tasks that you may do once a week or once a month. As you complete tasks, you gain gems, which you can use to dress your finch, send it on adventures, or decorate its birdhouse. Additionally, it has tools for managing depression, including breathing exercises and sensory activities. Story 98. My kids and the fact that my dad took his own life make it hard for me to cope with the collateral damage. I often wish I could just end it all. This feeling has been with me for a long time now. Story 99. I felt depressed during my pregnancy. I know that postpartum depression is a real issue, but I experienced distress even before giving birth. I was not ready to become a parent. Everyone around me was celebrating, and I felt like a villain, very much alone. When my baby was born, my feelings of darkness intensified. However, I had to get up, pump, feed, and burp the baby. I felt I had no excuse. My husband was supportive, the baby was healthy, and I had a good life. So, I woke up 5 times each night and did what I needed to do. It took me a while to suppress those feelings. So, what is the logic behind this? Story 100. My students are my pride and joy. I teach elementary school, and while I may not be perfect and we certainly have our tough days, they need someone who cares for them and is there for them. Story 101. My Chihuahua, people ask me what I will do when he dies. I tell them I will get 2 more Chihuahuas. It's a beautiful thing to rescue a life to save your own. Story 102. Antidepressants helped me. Unlike most people with depression, I am not lonely. I have people around me who truly care about and support me. I feel blessed to have them in my life. So why am I depressed? It is due to poverty. Story 103. Adequate sleep, camping trips, hiking trips, and the dream of my own cabin are important to me. I appreciate literature, art, and music. Keeping an open mind is essential. Spending quality time with friends is valuable, especially as I get older and social opportunities become less frequent. I also strive to avoid causing my family pain that cannot be resolved. Story 104. At this point, I feel frustrated. The things that depress me are beyond my control, including the selfishness of older generations, the corruption in politics, and the horrors being committed that demonstrate humanity never learns from its past, except to become more evil. There are even elements that want me and others like me dead or, at the very least, ostracized from public life. I refuse to die. I refuse to be invisible because it frustrates those who oppose me to see me continuing to live, to breathe the same air as them, and to point out their hypocrisy and lies while ignoring their propaganda. It drives them mad that no amount of their cruelty or desperation to shut down dissent or challenge stops me from living or calling out their nonsense when I see it. My reason to live is to infuriate every transphobe, homophobe, right-wing extremist, soulless authoritarian, capitalist, and every religious zealot who cannot stand people who do not bow to their imaginary beliefs. That is what keeps me going. Story 105. Life is good even when I am numb. It is just not as enjoyable without all the colors, but they appear in the best moments. Story 106. Fear of death. Fear of non-existence, specifically. Even if it feels like a good thing at times, it is still too soon. On the other hand, I am taking care of my health now, and I am getting better. Story 107. My dog, time in nature, houseplants, color-changing LED lights, and cutting toxic people and media out of my life as much as possible. Story 108. I am remarkably good at forcing myself to do things despite my emotions. When I was a child, I was bullied to tears every day, and my family only found out because I started throwing up on the way to school. I absolutely would not miss class, no matter how afraid I was, and I pushed myself until I ended up in the hospital. I was in 5th grade. My bully eventually got suspended for trying to harm me. So basically, I push my way through, getting things done because I have decided that no matter how much I want to give up, I have to work for tomorrow, even if I don't believe it will get better. Even a seemingly pointless task must be completed if it's on the list. Fortunately, one of the tasks I committed to was therapy about a year ago. The medications are helping now. I just hope they don't weaken my willpower, as I may not have to fight as hard against my struggles, because I know they will one day return in full force. Story 109. When I feel like ending it, I make an appointment to donate blood. Someone needs help, and I can endure a few more days for them. I always feel better. Much of what I do is tedious and pointless, so it is nice to know that I have made a big difference for someone else. Story 110. Let me share a secret. Depression has a harder time affecting someone who is actively engaged in life. Find a way to understand this that resonates with you, and you'll see the positive changes. This perspective helped me overcome the severe depression I battled at 16. Story 111. Hopefully before June, I will find a girlfriend. I just want to make a girl happy. My depression is intense loneliness that disappears completely when I am in a relationship. It's confusing, but just accept it. If I don't find someone before June, then let's just say I won't have to be emotionally vulnerable anymore. Story 112. Books can help you lose yourself in a completely different world for a while. Pets and animals are a significant support both mentally and physically. If you cannot house or afford a pet, many shelters provide everything necessary and only require you to foster the animal. Alternatively, you can volunteer at a humane society, as they often need people to play with the animals or walk the dogs. My husband is my main reason. Story 113. If I die, my children will be separated by their fathers and will never see each other again. It hurts too much to think about. Story 114. I don't want my child growing up without me. After that, I would be gone. I am definitely not here for myself because I feel I am not worth it. Story 115. My family would be devastated. It would be a huge mess, both literally and figuratively. It's slowly getting better on its own. There's a chance I will be myself again before I get too old. Story 116. Ketamine significantly alleviates my depression. Before discovering ketamine therapy, I made a promise to myself at the age of 19 to understand why I felt the way I did. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.